Alright, what up, y'all? Today we're going to be doing a tier list of all of the lords in the Fire Emblem series. First off, we're going to start with our boy Marth. I have not played his game, any of them, so I really cannot say anything. Then next we got, let's see, we're going to skip Alm and Celica until we get to Echoes. So then it's Marth again. Then it's Genealogy of the Holy War. And this tier list is primarily going to be story based. This is not actually like a gameplay based tier list. I'm rating them as characters, like they're writing. Okay, Sigurd. Where is our goat? The man, the myth, the legend. Sigurd, where are you hiding? Am I tripping or did they like not include? Oh, here he is. Okay. I have played Genealogy. Sigurd is definitely a good character. I think he has very like he is like a good noble lord, but I think the moral question regarding his romance with Deirdre, him knowing what the curse and still going with it, him and the question of how loyal he really should have been to the crown after watching the whole way the Elegant story ended and his naivete and having faith in the system right up until the very end. I think there's a lot of interesting nuance to Sigurd that isn't just the stuff that happens to him. Like a lot of people say, oh, Sigurd is just like a regular lord in a good story. Um, I don't agree with that. I think the good story actually also elevates Sigurd's character as well. I think the choices he makes are actually more interesting, and the actual proof of his good traits is better. So in some games, the Lord will be like, "Hey, everybody, let's go do this generically good stuff," and it's actually not that much of an sort of accomplishment of their leadership that there are good people who say yes, because it's like, what? Why would we not fight the evil dragon that wants to destroy the universe? But in Sigurd, he's leading people to almost certain death by the end of the game, and people like Ira, who initially joined this army, not even liking Sigurd, not even viewing him as a straight enemy, are like, no, I'm gonna die with you to the end. Like that's a feat of leadership and charisma that not everybody has. Sigurd, and he just like his reaction to Quan and Ethelin's death, where he decides to hold it together despite being wrecked, to still go back down. Like he shows way more strength and courage and leadership than your average lord over the course of the game, because the story actually tests and pushes him a lot more. And I think that really says something. But I can't pretend that he's like super deeply complex or well written or like more interesting than that. So I'm gonna put him at B, which to me, I have like really high rating standards actually. It may sound crazy that I just like praised him, but I'm like keeping him in the middle of the tier list. Most people are not going to end up that high actually. I feel like Fire Emblem Lords aren't that well written. Um, but Sigurd, I'm going to leave him in B relative to other. Well, actually, not even relative, but just he's getting a little bit of a boost for this being Fire Emblem. Actually, I'm really thinking about who I would put above Sigurd. Um, yeah, actually, no, B is good. Okay, so next is Seliph. Seliph, where are you? Okay, Seliph is like he. On the other hand, I feel like he really is just benefiting from like his dad. He's kind of a nepo baby. He has that whole conversation with the substitute girl, which most people won't even see, where he talks about how nervous he is and afraid he is, how he's being put up as like a god, etc., and his own insecurities. That's cool. But other than that, his whole, let's see, when I think of things in the story that aren't just like the obvious thing to do that are handed to him, but things that he actually are a reflection of his own character, I think I do like how he gets challenged by Sigurd after just rejoicing and killing Arvis, and he's like, he has to be told in that conversation with his dead parents, yo, you need to stay humble no matter what, do not let this stuff get to your head. I think that's actually really good, and I think um, by the end of that, he kind of maintains like humility that he was on the verge of losing. I think that the whole him wanting to have another solution with Arion, but ultimately not being able to get one, um, is, I don't know if that's not, I don't find that particularly interesting for his character, to be honest, but that is like a moment in his story where he's kind of wanting to make the wrong choice, the less practical choice, but Lewin kind of is like, you need to grow up, Seliph, and do what you need to do. Um, let's see. Seliph kind of just being like, yeah, we're not going to turn our back on the people of Turnanog. I know I'm supposed to just lay low, but I'm not going to do it. I do respect that decision from Seliph. Starting a revolution early, because he's just on the last end and the last group of people in the most remote corner of the whole map. He's not going to just leave them to die anymore the way he did when he was younger. I do respect that, so I'm going to give that to Seliph. So that's FE4. FE5, we have Leif. Leaf. Yeah. Okay, this is gonna sound really mean and really, really harsh. I've talked in some of like the shorts I posted or the TikToks. If you follow the TikTok channel, shout out the TikTok. That I find Leaf's writing in Thracia disappointing. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Ironically, because Leaf, we the player choose which route Leaf takes during the Norden line sort of split on the way to Leonster. Instead of Leaf himself doing it just like as a reflection of his own character, he could go either way. It actually leaves Leaf's character more ambiguous, and there's sort of not as much of an arc of him really having to mature because the story has him, after capturing Leonster, send out, what's his name, Dryas to die. And then a couple chapters later, he's still making like naive moral decisions just off of righteousness. Like, I don't really think he grows that much. He's just heavily carried by the people around him in a way that is actually even worse than Seliph, because Seliph literally has to come in and rescue Leaf. And that's kind of like the main thrust that allows Leaf to keep going to finish the story. Like, overall, I just feel like they did not really write a good arc for Leaf at all. And he kind of just felt like he was along for the ride. Roy. I'm gonna put Roy even worse than Leaf, in my opinion. I think Roy is just a very, very boring character. A lot of his supports are boring and uninteresting. Um, I can talk about how he doesn't want to be treated too much like a noble, like other generic Fire Emblem Lord stuff. Nice guy. Um, Roy's biggest character thing is he decides that he sees the good in people while Zephiel sees the evil, and that's why Zephiel wants to destroy the world and bring back the dragons to rule instead of humanity, which he views as fundamentally corrupt. And Roy has faith in humans and dragons, which is why instead of wanting to use it done as a tool, he decides to free her. Um, it's cool, but like the arc just isn't properly written out. So it kind of just feels like Roy is a 15-year-old who's kind of just along for the ride as a Nepo baby, to be honest with you. So we're going to leave Roy there. Next, we get to the FE7 Lords. We have Lynn, Eliwood, and Hector. Now, it actually has been a minute since I played FE7, and I actually have not played Hector mode, but I know kind of like the gist. So let's say Lynn, to be so honest with y'all, Lynn and her story I actually think is a great character. Her growing, her trying to understand and overcome her past and the trauma of having her people killed by bandits, and how that's reflected throughout the story and it supports is great. Her wanting to honor the foreign side of her culture. She grew up in the plains, but she has ancestry from a noble line in Kalen, and she wants to honor both of them, but she has to struggle between um, the practices she's accustomed to and what her mother left behind in Kaylin, and wanting to honor both sides of the family, but also trying to be true to herself. I think that's actually an interesting struggle. I think the issue with Lynn is that the story in the main game doesn't get too much use out of her. So a lot of times she's kind of just along for the ride. They didn't really write her like a real arc in Eliwood's whole thing. But I actually do think she's a very good character outside of that. I'm actually going to put her above Seliph. I would put... it's just... To be honest, what Lynn got overall as a character in FE7, if I look at the whole total package, is more than what these people got beneath her. So I'm going to put her in B. Eliwood. Okay. To be so honest with y'all, I'm trying to actually remember all of the beats in Eliwood's story. Eliwood's dad goes missing. They're trying to hunt down what happened to him. Let's see, different listing lords are being extorted by the Black Fang. It's a whole massive mystery. Elliot goes to find his dad, only for his dad to die. He has to recover from that, keep on going. He has a whole thing with Ninian. Durandal kind of moves to slay Ninian on its own, and Elliot has to deal with the ramification of the weapon that he spent all the time trying to grab, just killing his crush, which is sad. But at the end of the day, it's like Durandal is the one who really did that, and it kind of just gets resolved. So Elliot, I feel like Elliot is also just very cool and suave. Appreciate how much of a chat he was going in to help Lynn and Kaylin. I'm gonna put him above Seliph actually, but he's gonna stay right there and see. Hector. Hector can be very, very, how can I say, dramatic, but his brashness and boldness and personality is cool. And I think the charisma and actual personality, like nailing that is actually kind of more difficult. And when you compare Hector to just like very generic teenagers like Leif and Roy, who kind of have like no sauce and aura, it's like very well appreciated. Hector has the whole thing with other people trying to bring his brashness down, and he has that emotional soft side to him as well. The kindness and empathy. He's not just raw guy. I feel like they wrote in complexity to his character that really helps him out. And then I feel like overall Hector is kind of tagging along in Elliot's story. He is dealing with Uther's sickness, but I think Hector hearing about Armad's curse, which itself is kind of contrived, to be honest, never mentioned in the original game with Armad's. But still, Hector hearing about that curse and still deciding to be down with his friend 100% is a really nice show of friendship and the realness and manliness Hector embodies. And I feel like I'm going to put him low B. Okay. FE8 Erica. Now, FE8 I did Iron Man last year. Erica, I'm going to put her above Roy. She actually does have more personality and wit than Roy does when you play through the game. It's kind of easy to forget. Same above Leif too. I just feel like Erica will often make stupid decisions and get robbed of actually being her own person with her own arc. I feel like she's very heavily, she's definitely staying in D. She's heavily overshadowed by her brother, and she makes a whole journey to go save him, only for him to save her in return. Like, I feel like it kind of undercut her whole arc and whole journey. Ephraim, let's see. Ephraim, you're actually gonna chill right here. Ephraim is very cool, really fun unit to use gameplay wise. First real Lance Lord, but as a character, I feel like he doesn't actually get to grow into a real king. He's very strong and just gets out of situations that are very unrealistic, and he like conquers Grotto so easily that it kind of like, if your character is really strong, but they're so strong that everyone else is weak in comparison, then we're kind of robbed of a real growth arc for the character, because the character was just so easily destroying everybody. And it kind of makes everybody look weak instead of making Ephraim look strong, to be honest, which is like the vibe gameplay wise as well. Playing Sacred Stones, like the enemies all feel really weak. And then once let's see, Ephraim conquers Grotto, there's just the Leon centric ending third act of Sacred Stones, and that third act is so heavily focused on Leon's character. Is about Leon's jealousy of Ephraim and Leon's inferiority complex.
So then you would think that those who
that is really not, like, Ephraim and Erica both get robbed of character development as well by the end. Like, it really becomes the Leon show. Okay, next we have Ike. Does he belong in B or does he belong in A? I think Ike actually is slightly overrated, to be honest with you. I think Ike is like one of the few lores where like they really structured a well-written arc. Like, it looks like someone who actually understands the principles of storytelling was like, here's how we can do this for this character. Watching him grow, and this is just Path of Radiance, so I feel like Radiant Dawn Ike kind of just shows up and takes over the story. But Path of Radiance Ike, even though I'm using, we have the Path of Radiance Ike emblem. Yeah, okay, we're gonna leave Radiant Dawn Ike aside. Path of Radiance Ike, His journey, his vengeance of Grail's death, him having to grow as a leader, have people reject his leadership because he's just a teen, and only for him to show that he is that guy. Like, we know the plot beats, we know Ike is him. Um, Ike is head and shoulders above all the people, and I think he grows in so many different ways, not just one way. That kind of sets him apart from the lore. So he has to, like, as a leader, I would say that Ike, obviously he's very strong, he's very masculine, he's determined, um, but he has to kind of understand the social situation around him. He's kind of a bit oblivious um, about some things. Like, he doesn't really get the whole racism between different types of people. He has to learn what's going on with that. That different some words are offensive. He has to gain his social awareness, and then even giving a speech, like, not normally his thing, but he learns how to be a leader who can inspire not just the mercenaries who directly work with him, but can give a speech to inspire everyone in the army. And so I think that's really good. Let's see. Next, Radiant Dawn. We got Micaiah. I don't even know what to say about Micaiah, to be honest. I've played Radiant Dawn multiple times, and I still walk away being like, who actually is this chick? Well, I just feel like she has part one to herself, where she's like freeing Dane, and that's cool and everything. Don't get it twisted, but like, her whole operation is so hijacked of the Blood Pact, and then her body's taken over by Yune, where it's like very little stuff is actually her doing, and I don't even know really like what exactly her feelings or what she would do if she was actually free, which would be an actual reflection of her character and agency and intentions, actually is a lot of the time. So it's like really hard for me to kind of place her character, to be honest. And because she's so brutally robbed by the story, I'm actually gonna leave her an F. Like, this is not like me hating Micaiah. I'm just saying Radiant Dawn did her really, really dirty. Alencia, they did a lot better. I'm gonna count Alencia because she's the Lord of Part Two, even though it's a bit questionable. I would put Radiant Dawn, Alencia. Ooh, between the green hair girls. I really like the moment she has in part three where she like lays down her arms and everyone's like, yeah, we're not gonna fight directly over this woman. I like the maturity she shows. Unlike Leif, she actually has to be realistic and stand her ground. I can't just make dramatic rescue situations and say, "Oh, we're gonna save Lucia," and then Alencia had to be like, "I have to do the responsible thing for my kingdom." Leaf could never, and of her own volition too, by the way. So Alencia, to be honest, I really like Hector. I think Alencia's growth overall was better written than Hector. Dare I say Lynn? Like, if I'm counting Alencia's growth over both games, I think it's actually better written than Sigurd too. I think it's actually like very compelling. Definitely best female lord so far. Okay. Um. Okay, so now I did not play the Marth games. Okay, these are people I don't really consider to be lords. Now we have Crom. Crom I feel like is very brash, but I feel like a lot of Crom's character is about how he is gonna do the righteous trust in your friends thing no matter what, and even with Lucina coming from the future, he's still gonna do it and have faith and believe, and that is cool. And I feel like he's a fun, charming character, but sometimes it just feels like the plot is bullshit in Awakening, frankly, and he gets rewarded just because the plot says so and not that it actually makes sense. Robin, I actually do like Robin. I feel like they have a cool, interesting personality. I'm just gonna put male Robin just for the sake of we don't need two spots in this tier list. Um, I guess I'll do female Chris just so it's even. Male Robin, I feel like is cool. His whole kind of thing with Grima is interesting. Realizing where he actually came from. I just feel like my issue with Robin is a lot of the decisions are made by either like the player or Crom in terms of his moral dilemmas of should he kill himself to avoid betraying. Like, it's usually someone else stepping in, and in that way, while Robin has a lot of great moments as a tactician, some of the best in the series actually, like they really let Robin show off and flex his tactical muscles in a way they didn't really do Claude, and the only person who comes close is like perhaps Soren. like when he burns the boat, etc. So because of that, like I think he does belong in this C tier. In fact, I think I'm even gonna put him above Seliph, Elliewood. Ooh, that's kind of rough. I feel like they're kind of even to me. Actually, I think Ramen has some really charming supports. I'm gonna slap him there. That might be a hot take. Okay. But yeah, that's how I feel about Robin. Lucina, I feel like her story is actually very, very compelling. One of the best premises of any lord in the entire series and franchise. Um, the whole coming back from the future, and then she herself actually does have a great personality. She's not just a generic, oh, I'm a nice girl, blah 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 blah. Like she has her awkwardness and like lack of style, and she actually really, I feel like her character matures and grows into like a great leader. She's really very easy to empathize with. I actually rate Lucina very highly, in my opinion. Um, I'm trying to decide, does she really belong up here? Is she better than Sigurd? I just feel like sometimes she's kind of just like in the background for the Valma arc. Um, because it really doesn't have that much to do with her. I'm gonna put her here. That might be a hot take. She might be a bit overrated. Okay, let's see. So that's all the Awakening Lords. Corrin, bottom of F. I just feel like Corrin is such a bad, extremely passive, poor decision making. Just like, ugh. This is the Tokyo Mirage Sessions guy. I feel like I don't remember this. Like he was just very bland to me, if I'm being honest with you. Um, I have played Heroes. This guy was even more bland than the Tokyo Mirage Sessions guy. This girl has a decent personality, but it seems like she gets robbed of agency a lot in this story. I haven't actually played the story past like 2018, but I'm just gonna. I feel like the way that I be seeing things about her, I'm gonna guess that she's there. Technically, I should put her in haven't played because I haven't played all the way through, but we're just gonna guess. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Almond Celica. Okay. Now we're in 2017, which is 9 years ago. God, I feel old. Okay. Echo's I feel like it's well written. The voice acting is great. The character acting really elevates him in my opinion. Um, his whole like it's actually really I felt more emotions with going through his whole situation with his Emperor Rudolph, with Celica, where she was like low key bugging. I'm not gonna lie, they really did Celica dirty. Where's Celica actually? Celica just comes across as very incompetent and not really. Let's see. Yeah, Echo Celica just comes across very incompetent, very just like brainwashed by the we need to depend on Mila. Like she's kind of like everything wrong. I feel like the story in theory should be a balance between the masculine and feminine. So like Duma is like this harsh masculine leader who wants is just about strength and strength, and Mila was this like feminine, let's all be chill and vibe um type energy, and we don't need all that like obsession with strength and violence or whatever. Let's be more like aesthetic and sensual. But in practice, like the story heavily favors over Celica and Alm's decisions over Celica, so she ends up looking bad a lot. And the whole trusting Duma, constantly getting saved because she's a woman, like the story really, really undercuts Celica. I'm gonna leave her above Erica and these other people just because Celica, I feel like it is interesting to follow her journey. You do feel the emotions with it. Um, and I feel like he is just kind of like a go in my opinion. He rejects the classism around him. He he's just a cool guy. I'm trying to think what I actually put above Hector though. I'm gonna say no. Okay, next we're at Three Houses. I really think Byleth is badly written. I know a lot of you guys really like Byleth. The whole who they actually are is interesting in terms of like how they were created by Rhea. But like Byleth, the actual character, it's a lot of like very conflicting stuff. Byleth is whatever the story wants him to be at any point in time. Byleth will just be like an empty, flat, emotional wall sometimes, but then he's this like great, charismatic, or not charismatic, but just like you can tell him everything. He's super cool, does all this different stuff for his students where it's like, you're saying that, but the story has not actually demonstrated that. Edelgard. Yeah, I'm gonna put Edelgard above Ike. That might be a hot take. Y'all can fight me. The difference is I feel like Edelgard's choices are a lot more interesting than Ike's choices. Like Ike has a great story and great development and great growth, but he doesn't actually make those really really interesting choices the way that Edelgard does. And Edelgard drives his plot in a way that Ike is like fundamentally way more reactive. Like we don't have three houses without Edelgard at all. We and it's like not everybody here would have done what Edelgard did, if that makes sense. Like if you put Sigurd in Ike's shoes, Sigurd would do a lot of the same stuff Ike did. Sigurd would try to go strong and avenge Grail as well. I mean technically Sigurd did that in his tale too. But Edelgard, like not everybody here would have done what Edelgard did. Edelgard's commitment to justice and is like and determination to do it no matter what. You can disagree, but the fact that there's been 7 years of discourse over her character actually really says something. Like she's interesting. She's not just a generically nice person that everybody just agrees with. She actually brings stuff to the table on her own. And at the end of the day, I feel like we don't need another 10 minutes of Edelgard, analysis and debate. Like it's been done. It's been 7 years. But I will say that we've truly never seen anything like her. Like she's getting extra points for being unique. In fact, I would bump her up to S. The only thing that's stopping me is that sometimes the writing in Three Houses is so convoluted that they make Edelgard do things that don't really make sense, and that holds her character back just a little bit because it's like it doesn't make sense in the sense of like Edelgard's character is just so overwhelmed by her experience. Like it doesn't make sense in the sense of like it literally like she wouldn't actually do some of like the stuff she does or does not do. Like some of her priorities are backwards in a way where it's like the writers weren't thinking it through 100%. It's not actually like good character writing the way that some of the priorities are backwards in terms of who she prioritizes as an enemy. Okay, next, I just had Dimitri down here, like the young version of Dimitri. I don't know where he went. We're gonna grab old Dimitri. I should put him here because I haven't played Blue Lions. But even without playing Blue Lions, just through osmosis of being in the Fire Emblem community and his character in the other routes, like he's already at least here. So the only thing Blue Lions could do would be to make him above Edelgard, and I have to actually play the game and see if he's really that good. Okay, next we have, I guess I'll just use the post-time skip designs for the Lords just to keep it consistent, so. Next we have Claude. Ooh. Claude should be up here, but like his route kind of just hangs him out to dry so bad. The story just does not care about the issues of racism, like the way that his character's centered around. Like the main story just doesn't focus on it. It really give him that. He doesn't get to show off his like strategic mind that much either. Like other people do the same thing in other routes. It's painful to let Claude slide like this, but his character is just is so cool, but it's like really really left out to dry, which is very sad. So I'm gonna put him there. Alir is I guess like I really don't. Yeah, Alir has this whole story. It's just, to be honest, I never cared about Alir. Like I still don't. I don't even really have much to say other than that, to be so honest with you. Are there any other real lords here? A lot of these are just important characters now. Okay, so this is my Fire Emblem Lord tier list. Who am I wrong about the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank y'all. Have a good one.